December 1999, police in Pakistan find a package and a 32-page diary that outlines the brutal murder of 100 children aged 8 to 16. The writer of the diary explains in gruesome detail how he lured the kids into his trap, strangled them and chopped them into small pieces, and dissolved their body parts in acid. He even provided police photos of the victims prior to their demise. Cops were dealing with the worst serial killer ever in the country of Pakistan. A killer who enraged the public so much they literally wanted to rip him to pieces. Maybe his fate should mirror his crimes. People said with Hammurabi's code in mind: a life for a life, an eye for an eye, a nose for a nose, an ear for an ear, a tooth for a tooth, an equal wound for a wound. The extent these atrocities would come to light when the killer, 40-year-old Javed Iqbal, sent a letter to the newspaper in Lahore that read like this: all the details of the murders are contained in the diary and the 32-page notebook that have been placed in the room and had also been sent to the authorities. This is my confessional statement. When the cops got to his 3-room apartment, what awaited them was a scene of utter horror. The walls were covered in blood, children's clothes were strewn across the floor, dozens of pairs of little shoes and sandals were scattered around in. In one room, there was a fan of acid still, bubbling with what looked like the remains of legs bobbing up and down. A cop looked at the floor and picked up a note that was lying there. It read, "The bodies in the house have deliberately not been disposed of so that authorities will find them. There were the remains of 3 children in that house on a blood-spattered wall. There was a large piece of paper scrawled on it where the words, 'Yesterday I killed my employee, Sajid, and incinerated his body in the container so that he could be punished for theft and for disturbing me again and again.' What in God's name were they dealing with?" The cops thought as the fool searched through the mess. For some reason, the killer had kept snakes. Police found the boxes they would have been contained in. In another room, they found a bunch of board games that children might enjoy. One of the cops picked up a video cassette from the floor, a popular Italian exploitation film entitled The Beast and Heat. On another wall was another note that read, "The world will remember this. Mode of revenge." The bodies flowed through the sewer just like my blood. The lengthy diary described how he killed the kids. There were even sometimes details as to where they likely lived and who their parents were. The diary explained how he got hold of him and the terrible things he did to them. It even detailed how much acid it took to dissolve a body, which according to the killer was exactly number 120 just, over a couple of dollars back then. Very soon after, the cops launched one of the biggest manhunts that Pakistan had ever seen. But who was this man? This monster? He was the 6th child of a fairly well-off businessman named Muhammad Ali Mughal. He went to school and college and had pretty much everything he needed. His pop set him up in the steel recasting business and let him stay at one of his houses. To all appearances, he was a young professional man who was doing just fine in life, but obviously that wasn't the case at all. As you'll see behind that normal life, there were some very dark secrets he had and acted alone in the murders. Prior to his arrest, 4 teenagers were arrested on charges of helping him. One of them soon died in police custody. The cops said he jumped out of a window, but reports stated it was most likely they'd beaten him to death in. In fact, the murder was so obvious, the administration of Lahore cops was moved around. Still, the hundreds of relatives of the missing kids, who'd seen photos of their loved ones, weren't exactly upset over the slaying of one of Iqbal's helpers. But where was he? Well, like a scene from the movie Seven on December 30th, he walked right into the offices of the Urdu daily newspaper. He didn't exactly hold bloody arms up in front of him and say, "You're looking for me." But he did say this: "I am Javed Iqbal, killer of 100 children. I hate this world. I am not ashamed of my actions, and I'm ready to die. I have no regrets." He then changed his story, telling the judge in court that he hadn't actually killed the kids, but had seen them being murdered by someone else. He told them that the reason he'd written the letters, the posters, and sent to packages was because he wanted to bring attention to the fact that parents had neglected those kids and had left. If 100 kids had been killed, how could that happen? And no one reports something when each disappearance occurred. Some people blamed poverty and the fact that some of those kids were lost and abandoned, often left alone to beg. "I could have killed 500. This was not a problem. Money was not a problem. The pledge I had taken was of 100 children, and I never wanted to violate this." That he discovered many young boys living on the streets, abandoned by their parents. He told the court that he took photos of them to bring attention to this social problem. Stories came out that painted a picture of Iqbal's secret life. The reason was he wasn't interested in women, but the opposite sex, and preferably someone of a young age. It was also revealed how he opened a video game arcade offering free stuff to boys. People testified that he enjoyed nothing more than just sit around and watch them play. Sometimes he'd surreptitiously put a number 100 note on the floor after a boy had picked it up and kept it. Iqbal would announce that everyone had to be searched in a private room. Some people that knew him understood his ways, saying he was an evil genius that was cunning when it came to getting what he wanted. The court heard these stories and they'd seen the evidence that was available. He had his sob story, and it was appearing that he had a passionate lawyer. It was actually discovered during the trial that many of the parents hadn't reported their kids missing because they were afraid to speak to cops. That might sound strange to some of our viewers, but in many parts of the developing world, people would rather not report something, even a car accident, because the victims can end up paying corrupt cops or face false charges. But the judge didn't only hand down the death sentence, but he ordered something that wasn't actually written into the law. He said the death sentence should be carried out in public at Pakistan's national monument in Lahore. This is exactly what he told the Iqbal that day in court. "You will be strangled to death in front of the parents whose children you killed. Your body will then be cut into 100 pieces and put in acid the same way you killed the children. But there's no law which allows a person to be hanged publicly to cut up pieces of the body. It is against the Constitution of Pakistan." While Iqbal was in jail, he was found dead in his cell. The same day, one of his accomplices was also found dead in his cell. How could this happen? In one of the most high-profile criminal cases in the history of Pakistan. Surely someone should have been keeping close eyes on those. If you enjoyed this video, please make sure to subscribe to our channel and hit the bell icon to never miss an update. Until next time.